SSN Original.
From Story Studio Network.
Well, here we are, the 28th day of June. Welcome in. It's Now and Next. I'm Dave Trafford for Story Studio Network. And we got a few things in the works with SSN and the team, so it's going to be a busy summer for us. But we'll probably take the foot off the pedal a little bit on the daily show over probably the next couple of months. Still be there. We'll still be, in your inbox as far as that goes on your podcast app. So, but we've got a few other things in the works that we want to make sure that we get standing up and ready to go for the fall. I know. It's not even 1st of July and we're already talking about the fall. But that's how far ahead we're moving here. All right, welcome in. If you're in this part of the world, we are tasting and smelling the effects of the wildfires in Quebec and Northern Ontario here in Toronto. And that's a bit of a reminder of what's going on. By the way, we are, if you want to actually find out more about, what's going on with the wildfires, etc., Aaron and I did a series called Canadian Forestry Can Save the World. Yeah, it was a tongue-in-cheek. It's kind of fun. But we talk about the place of the forestry and wood product sector in the effort to actually curb climate change. And there's some pretty cool stuff in there. Aaron and I come from a family of, my dad was a forester. So I thought, hey, that's kind of a cool thing. I thought I knew a thing or two about this. I learned a whole lot doing that series about how that wooden framed house you live in has been sequestering carbon since the day that it, actually poked through the soil as a small plant somewhere in a forest. Yeah, it's been there a while. So all good stuff. Check it out wherever you get this podcast. It'll be in the same feed. Canadian Forestry Can Save the World. All good. Here in this part of the world, it's fun to see that this is festival season. This is the part of the year that we Canadians kind of get out and hang out the out of office sign gladly because the weather takes a turn for the better, where we can be outside, smoke aside, and really kind of enjoy this part of the world nicely, because we got, whether it's the lakes or the bush or the downtown urban center here in Toronto, there's always something to do. And the festival season, to me, really breathes so much life into just not only what we can do recreationally and on vacations, but into really important benchmark for communities across, and certainly the province here in Ontario, I dare say across the country. My friend Michael Hollett, he has been at North by Northeast, and they just wrapped up what sounds like it was a very successful gathering here in Toronto. Again, first time in a while, everybody's been in person. The Toronto TD Jazz Festival in full swing. The Ottawa Jazz Festival set to go this week. So, and I was really encouraged to see that our friends at Mariposa, all ready to go next weekend, and up in Orillia. So I thought, well, I should check that out. And I look at their website and I thought, holy cow. I mean, I just was blown away when I'm looking at, if you want to go, too late. Festival is sold out. Sold out. I thought, that's kind of good news, and it's sort of bad news if, you want to be one of those last-minute folks, but I guess it makes the point. You can't be a last-minute decider anymore and stuff like this. There was real demand, and that was just good to see. Pam Carter is the president of the Mariposa Folk Foundation. I'm guessing that's good news for you guys to be able to say we sold out the festival.
It's great news for a variety of reasons, Dave. I mean, it really speaks strongly to the faith that our patrons have in the Mariposa Folk Festival, and they know that we'll deliver a great show. Tickets go on sale in the fall, and people will buy them before we've even announced a lineup. But then once the lineup's announced, ticket sales took off and led us to this sold-out position. So it's really great. We're really encouraged by that.
So what was the capacity of the space in terms of, when you talk about sold out, what are you talking about?
Yeah, we're talking about 30,000 people over the course of the weekend. And it's
Wow.
really an arbitrary number. What the board of directors wanted to do was create a comfort level for all of the people on site and the patrons. So we could squeeze many, many thousands more in, but we choose not to. So we don't want huge lineups for food and huge lineups for the pubs and huge lineups for the porta potties after the pubs.
That's
So
important. Yeah.
so we put just an arbitrary limit on it, and we review it every year. So hopefully going forward, we can increase tickets.
Now, remind me, does that include? I mean, there was a time I recall that there was camp facilities at some sites when we were doing that. Is that still the case for Mariposa?
Yeah, it is. We've got 1,000 campsites. So people who get a camping pass must also have a festival pass. Camping sold out in like February, I think.
Wow.
So yeah,
All right.
filled up really quickly. So we're really looking forward.
That's a
to
hardy,
having it.
committed group that are want to get out and ready to see the festival. And so
Exactly.
I was looking at some of the offerings, and one of the things that I thought this was so important to acknowledge Gordon Lightfoot's connection to the festival. It's in his hometown, as it was when it originated. Give me a sense of, I can only imagine where you've got performers who are going to take part in that. What's their feeling about that? Because I would expect that there's sort of this, there's almost a feeling that you want to be careful how you touch his music. You know what I mean?
I think so. I think it's going to be a really bittersweet weekend, to be honest. Gord's passing struck us all in a very poignant way, and that was evidenced at the visitation for Gord. So people are looking forward to coming to see what the offerings are, but I think it's going to be a sad occasion as well. Gord always attended the festival. And sometimes he was booked to perform on the main stage. Other times he would just bound across the parking lot with his guitar in hand and think, oh, here comes Gord. And, he asked to play a song or two. Well, of course.
You'd
So
make
we're
room,
opening,
right? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And you'd hear that ripple go out over the crowd and also through the audience core in the green room. Gord's here. Here comes Gord. I mean, he's a folk icon for Canada and around the world. So we're hoping to honor him. We are opening the festival up with The Way We Feel, which is Jory Nash's production. He's been doing it for about 15 years, mostly at Hughes Room in Toronto, and Gord always attended. So it's sanctioned by Gord. Sometimes he performed with him, other times he just sat in the audience, but that'll be our opening to the festival and our remembering of Gord.
Yeah, nice. And it's important to, kind of punctuate that. And, I begin to wonder, I recall talking about his legacy, and there's no question that we understood and appreciated what he did for us culturally, but he went from being sort of this rock star in the 60s, 70s, 80s to this almost like the Gandalf of Canadian music, where he was the wise one that kind of sat back, and he was so self-deprecating. He was, and he was anxious and interested to hear other people treat his music. That struck me as sort of contradictory to his personality early on. So he kind of grew into this role as a legend, if you will.
I think so. I think you're quite right in that. Certainly in his later years, he was a very humble, generous man. He had a huge place in his heart for Orillia and for Mariposa, and he was hugely supportive of Mariposa. And, in fact, if Gord hadn't been the headliner the first year Mariposa came back to Orillia, I'm not sure we would be here talking today. But having him on the roster just ensured that tickets would sell in his hometown. And really, Gord also waived his fee that year. So that just set Mariposa up for financial success and brand success, and we haven't looked back. So, we're very appreciative of that role that he played.
So remind me, when did it return to Orillia?
It came back in 2000.
Right. So that's a nice long. You've had a good runway there. It's a successful, and clearly, I think it's funny to hear the history. I've got the poster on my wall. I don't know if I mentioned this the last time I talked to you, but I've got the 1961 poster for Mariposa Folk Festival, August 18th, 19th. Ruth Jones signed it. The lineup included the Travelers, Bonnie Dobson, Jean Carrion. We've also got Alan Mills, Ian Tyson, and a young woman named Syliva Fricker.
That's right.
Even then, there were iconic Canadian legends playing at this upstart festival.
Yeah, many of those people are in the Mariposa Hall of Fame. And in fact, we inducted Gordon Lightfoot into the Hall of Fame last year. And people would comment, what took you so long? Mm-hmm. You couldn't find a date that worked for the guy because he was so busy and on the road. And finally we said, Gord, it's got to be this year. And, I'm so grateful that we were able to do that because he was so honored to be inducted. And you would think, Mariposa, he's in the Canadian Hall of Fame, but truly he was very honored.
Yeah, and we would be remiss if we didn't note the passing as well of Ian Tyson. I mean, you talk those two guys alone, right? In terms of the music that they created and the stamp that they put on Canadian character and quality of that music and storytelling.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they both left a real legacy of work. And I think I know it'll be enjoyed for generations to come. And we'll see a lot of covers this year, I think, of both of them, which is just great. We hope they don't all play the same song, but it'll work itself out.
Exactly. Well, but you know what you're going to notice what's going to happen is it's going to not just be a concert. These will be sing-alongs because that your audience is going to just engage, and there's no way that they're going to sit on their hands and not sing along with this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And Sunday night at the Mariposa Folk Festival, we have been very fortunate to have Gord's band joining us on Sunday night. So we'll have some surprises to offer the audience, and another way to recognize Gord.
We were at Live 8, and that was at Molson Park in Barrie. And it was quite a lineup. I mean, Neil Young played, and it was crazy, the number of people. He wasn't on the lineup to play, but Lightfoot showed up. And this was shortly after he had his, flirt with death. And it was the same. But it was interesting to see not only how the media responded, but, guys like Neil Young, holy cow, Gordon Lightfoot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Right.
It's funny. Tom Wilson had a funny story. I was talking to him a while ago about he did a retrospective on Sundown, and Gord was invited, and Gord called him up and he said, "I'm not going to play, Tom." "Okay, Gord, that's fine." Gord arrives with guitar in hand. "Where's my microphone, Tom?" And of course he played.
There you go. So let's talk a little bit about the health and well-being of the festival because because of COVID, you kind of lost the opportunity to mark this big 6-0, and those things come and go. I was talking to somebody yesterday about how many of us have missed those big events that end in 0, whether they're birthdays or anniversaries, because of COVID, and we were unable to gather. But we found a way afterwards to make sure that we had a greater celebration and a more intense celebration. That's in the rearview mirror. There's not much you can do about that from a marketing perspective, but you got to feel proud of what you guys are doing to be able to say, look at where we are right now. I mean, we're into our 7th decade of being the Mariposa Folk Festival.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And it's the support of a whole artistic community, the industry, but also Orillia as well. So when Mariposa returned to Orillia, it was on pretty shaky financial grounds, and the community embraced it. It's Orillia's own. The citizens embraced it. We have 750 volunteers this year, mostly who come from this community. The business community embraced it, and as I say, we haven't looked back from our success. It's always on our minds. We're always conscious and not to be complacent or take it for granted. But the support that we've had has been overwhelming. And I talked to somebody who had been with the festival for 35 years. We've got volunteers from Toronto that have followed it around the province, and they said they thought the only time they could recall that Mariposa came close to a sellout was in 1984. So I think the last 2 years of us selling out in Orillia really speaks to what we have to offer and the commitment and the fan base that we have.
So would 84 have been the Molson Park site?
Might have been Toronto Island. You're stretching my memory here. I'd have to look
Yeah.
that one up.
I'm trying to think.
Could have
It
been.
might have been. It might have been Molson Park. It was close in there though, right? So and again, I
Yeah.
recall that I not to get off on a tangent, but I remember in and around that time, Stevie Ray Vaughan was a headliner, and there was this marked clash between the traditional folkies and those who wanted to embrace a broader, perspective and a peripheral vision of what folk music was. And that,
Right.
you had this screaming electric guitar, probably the best guitar player on the planet at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember this very passionate debate about, what does that say about Mariposa, right? And I liked that idea because there was such passionate ownership of, and this isn't just the people who are volunteering or spending, time. These are the people who are paying for tickets to go to the festival. They felt like they owned it.
Right. Oh, for sure. And we have this tagline that we use, true to our roots for generations to come. But it became very clear to the board of directors, if we didn't encourage and engage our youth and our young adults, Mariposa wasn't going to be around for the length of time that it has been. So we've made a concerted effort to adhere to that tagline, to give something for everyone. So we've got, this year we've got Tegan and Sarah coming, the weather station. And then on the other end, we've got Mountain 4 and Judy Collins. So we really do try to offer something to everyone. And I think our efforts have really paid off. Our youth numbers and our young adult numbers in terms of audience have grown over the years. And once you can get people in the door, so to speak, they tend to be loyal fans. So it's been great.
Yeah, well, I know it's great to see Judy Collins on the lineup. And I'm speaking of singing Ian Tyson songs, she might nail one or two there as well. That might be fun to listen to. I remember interviewing her years ago, and we were in studio, and the song "Sweet Judy Blue Eyes," she really does have blue eyes. Holy cow! It's almost scary, and I say that with all due respect. But she was always seen as sort of the cover artist, and I think sometimes we overlooked how important she was as a composer and a songwriter, right?
Yeah, for sure. I listened to some of her music the other night, just as, just out of interest and a refresher. And all the songs, you're right. But yeah, I think she'll play some Ian Tyson. I think she'll probably play some Gordon Lightfoot as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny when I was talking to her. We started to talk about the songs that she was known for, and as she was rhyming them all off, so many of them were Canadian songwriter songs that she had gravitated towards. So, may not be from this part of the world, but boy, she's got some serious music roots in this part of the world.
Yeah, that's for sure. I tend to forget until I look at her song list and I go, oh, yeah, I know that. Oh, there's another one.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So, I know your weather committee is probably working really hard to make sure everything works out. But give me I realize it's sold out. So I'm assuming at this point it's going to inform how you plan for next year already. For
sure. Yeah, absolutely. We always do an audience survey post-festival, and that's been really important to us in terms of informing next year's work. But, the day Mariposa ends on Sunday night, we'll start the next week debriefing and working to what worked well, what didn't work so well, and starting to work towards the following year. So it's a year-round activity. It just changes as the year progresses.
Yeah, no, I recall for a few years I was on the board, and that was a never-ending, and it was a full-time job for a lot of volunteers and a couple of hired staff. So they punched above their weight. So congratulations to you and the team. I'm excited to hear you're sold out. I'm sorry I didn't get a ticket in time to show up to the show, so I'll have to get in bright and early next year to make sure that we can pick up on things going on.
Check out the media accreditation.
Oh, well, we'll do that. It gets me in the back door, does it?
It could. Exactly.
Listen, congratulations again, Pam, and we hope that the weather committee does good work for you and everything goes well. And we'll be anxious to see how things unfold for Mariposa 2024. Good of you to talk to us. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave.
Now and Next is produced by Becky Coles. Our production manager is Jamie Nickerson. Audio editors are Mike Trutler and Drew Garner. And our sonic logo designer is Greg McDonald. Our executive producers are Dave and Aaron Trafford.
This is SSN.
Story Studio Network.